Coming off the back of a disappointing but encouraging draw with Arsenal, Chelsea returned to Premier League action with the Blues taking on fellow London club Brentford in a home tie at Stamford Bridge. But who will play, and how do Chelsea win? Let's get to it. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from Mono CFC and welcome to the lead-in. Like always, I'm going to be predicting the lineups that I feel will play and show how I believe our team could set up tactically. So without further ado, let's firstly look at our opponents for this match. Brentford are currently sitting in 14th in the Premier League table. 2 wins, 4 draws and 3 defeats see them sitting just 2 points behind Chelsea with 10. They started the season very strongly despite the glaring absence of main man Ivan Toney, but have since started to falter in recent weeks, with only 1 win in 5 games, that being their last match against a struggling Burnley. Chelsea and Brentford don't have much recent history with each other, with the majority of our matches against one another coming in the 30s and 40s, but looking at the head-to-head we can see that Chelsea have won the majority of games against Brentford in recent memory, but with Brentford now starting to get a few results against the Blues in the last season or two. They'll be looking to continue this small patch of success against us in this game and keep their place firmly above the relegation zone. So, how will they plan on trying to achieve that? Let's look at the team. Brentford, managed by the football hipster's favourite Thomas Frank, have been frequently swapping between a 4-3-3 and a 3-5-2 all season, mainly due to injuries/suspensions to their wingbacks, Hickey and Rico Henry. But it seems as if the Danes' focus is playing the more adventurous 4-3-3 against lesser teams that concede possession like Bournemouth, and the 3-5-2 against sides that retain the majority of the ball, and so because of that I'll be putting them back into the 3-5-2 against us. First up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Mark Flecken. Not much to say about this one really, he's played the majority of the games as the number 1 this season for the Bees, so I don't see that changing. For the back 3, I think this will be their standard trio at the back, with none of them out injured. I'd expect to see Nathan Collins on the right hand side, Ethan Pinnock in the centre of the 3, and over on the left the ex-Burnley man Ben Mee. Moving into the midfield 5, starting on the right in the wing-back role will be Dane Mads Roerslev. The central midfielders are very standard for Brentford, the informed Matthias Jensen on the right, the defensively minded Christian Norgard in the middle, and German Vitali Janelt finishing the trio on the left. Over on the far left-hand side will be the returning Aaron Hickey, coming back from suspension to fill in for the injured Rico Henry. This leaves the final 2 players up top. Spearheading the team will be the ever-dangerous combination of Cameroonian striker Bryan Mbeumo, alongside DRC native Yoane Wissa. Now, as I've said in the past, I'm going to be moving away from the tactical side of things in these previews and stick to putting that in my tactical breakdowns after games, so I'm not going to talk at length about Brentford here, but I will point out a few things of note about them. Firstly, Brentford don't concede a lot of goals. They are quite defensively astute under Thomas Frank, especially when they sit back to absorb pressure in their shape with a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2 as it usually ends up as. They score a fair few too, and this is without their main striker who contributed so many goals last season to drag them to a 9th place finish. This solid defensive acumen acts as a platform to spring counter-attacks from, and from what I've personally watched of Brentford so far this season, they look very dangerous on the transition. Mbeumo, Wissa and Jensen have all played a major role in getting attacking opportunities and or goals when their opponents have committed men forward, and left spaces in behind to exploit. If we are to beat Brentford, we'll need to be aware of this very real threat on the break, and be prepared to defend against it. Not only that, but Brentford have shown that they are well drilled when it comes to set pieces, with corner/free kick routines being deliberately handcrafted to create chances, and not just let's put the ball into an area and work from there. It's almost a breath of fresh air seeing it in action, but obviously from a Chelsea perspective we need to be switched on and not allow these creative routines to flourish. It is worth noting that despite their relative amount of success this year, the opponents they have beaten aren't exactly the best teams in the league in truth. Wins versus Burnley and a 10-man Fulham side aren't exactly boast-worthy, and they failed to beat both larger sides they faced in United and Spurs. The rest of their games have been draws to mid-table opposition at best, or losses to teams such as Everton. So despite all of my praise for them, I think they've done well considering their circumstances. Looking at them objectively, I don't foresee them causing us many troubles, unless we become our own downfall again and don't get our act together. But as I said, I'd like to focus more on our own team from now on, so speaking of the Blues, let's talk about Chelsea. But real quick, if you're enjoying the content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. Cheers. Let's start with the formation. We know it's going to be 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, but the interesting thing here is whether or not we try to match the incoming 3 at the back system with Colwill at left back, or stick to what has been working in recent weeks. We still have a lot of absentees, but a few returning players may make their way back into the team for this one. So, first up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Robert Sanchez. Despite his and Enzo's blunder against Arsenal, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. I think Petrovic will likely feature in the cup against Blackburn, so we'll have to wait his turn for this one. For the back 4, I am going to keep it the same as last time out, with no new injuries and Disasi, James and Badiashile still being reintroduced. I don't expect there to be changes here in order to preserve fitness, especially with a midweek game upcoming. So, over on the right hand side I will be starting Malo Gusto. Despite his small lapse in concentration at the end of the game, he played exceptionally well against Arsenal and doesn't deserve to be switched out immediately. The centre back pairing will be the same duo, with Thiago Silva playing on the right and Levi Colwill playing on the left. Back at left back is the resurgent Marc Cucurella, who was arguably our player of the match last time out. Moving into the midfield, again I don't expect there to be changes here. This trio we've been seeing has been working very well, and against a solid midfield like Brentford's, we'll need our full strength centre. So Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez will play in the deeper roles, with Conor Gallagher captaining the side for probably the last time for now, in the more advanced role. The 3 up top is one for debate, but with his form being sky high, there's no debate about Cole Palmer starting here on the right hand side. And I assume most Chelsea fans, have fallen in love with this kid ever since he joined, putting in great performance after great performance, and I'd expect another goal contribution or 2 from him here in this one. On the opposite side, this is hard to pick with both of our left wingers being in form, but after his goal on Saturday I just can't drop Mykhailo Mudryk. Despite its unorthodox nature, I think that goal will be a massive confidence booster for Misha, and I wouldn't be surprised if he bags another here. Finishing off the team in the striker position, I'm unsurprisingly going to be putting Jackson back in. I think overall we just play better when he's in the side, but I was so close to picking Brozier here, because I feel like he could find some success against a congested backline like Brentford's in truth, but I digress. Now, I'm going to break down how I think we should play in order to get a result against Brentford, but before I do so, it's time for the question of the day. As always, I'm going to highlight some of the comments from the last video, so here are a few responses to the last question of the day. Thanks guys for your continued support as ever. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's question of the day down below with QOTD at the start as always. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for a more in-depth one. If you could design the perfect footballer, left leg, right leg, body, head, using only current or ex-Chelsea players, who would you pick and why? Alright, so how will we play? Well, I think this game will be a very typical, grindy, frustrating game for Chelsea. I expect Brentford to sit in their shape and absorb pressure for 90% of the game, whilst Chelsea try, and most probably fail, to create clear opportunities. I'm going to point out what I believe are our keys to success here. Firstly, the wings are going to be vitally important to control in this game. Against 3 or 5 of the back systems, the centre is overloaded with players and just isn't available as an attacking option for us. The game will, similarly to the Arsenal game, be won and lost based on who can get the better of the opposition's fullbacks and utilise the space out wide. If we aren't careful, Brentford could easily create 2v1s against our fullbacks, while still having enough defensive cover back in case they lose the ball. Our midfield/wingers will have to drop deep in order to help Cucurella and Gusto, as they may become isolated out wide. On the opposite end of things, when we are attacking, we'll need to find a way to bypass the Brentford wide men, which may come at the cost of exposing us centrally by shifting over a centre mid to help aid whichever side we are attacking. But even then you can see there isn't much space to work with if Brentford stay tight and compact, so like I usually suggest, it might be worth allowing Brentford to come onto us, push those wingbacks up high and try to win the ball back for transitional opportunities. Look at the astronomical amount of space that opens up if we do this, which our wide men, as well as Jackson who loves to run into the channels, can exploit. Mudryk could have a field day if we do this correctly, and if our wide players get into these positions, it forces the wide centre-backs to come over to cover, not only isolating them 1v1 against our wingers, but opening up more space centrally as they vacate their original positions. I'm not suggesting that we play this way all game, obviously, but it's worth noting that during these periods of Brentford possession, which we know they will definitely have at times, we have to make the most of it and punish Brentford for being too adventurous. Once we get our first goal, we can revert back to what we've been doing for most of the season, defend our lead, and force the opposition to try and get back into the game, further opening up opportunities as they commit more bodies forward, trying to make a breakthrough. Let's be honest, a Chelsea win here should be a guarantee, but Brentford have been a bogey team for us as of late, and they are surprisingly unbeaten in 12 Premier League games against London clubs, so this game is by no means a foregone conclusion. I think this is going to be one of two games, either extremely close and hard fought, or extremely open and goals galore. Chelsea should have confidence after our recent run of good games, especially considering how well we played against Arsenal, one of the best teams in the league. If we can translate that confidence into another good performance, I have no doubt that Pochettino's Blues can claim all 3 points and start pushing for the top end of the table, as we are only 4 points away from European places. For a score prediction, I am as ever going to predict a Chelsea win, though I do feel a draw is very much a possibility here. So I'll say that Chelsea will edge this game 1-0. I'm going to say that our goal will come from Conor Gallagher, lashing in a long-range effort after a poor clearance from the Brentford defence. But that was just my lead-in match preview for Chelsea vs Brentford. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these possible lineups in the comments section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from MonoCFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.